Welcome to this video as part of the Module 7 area of study in biology. Today we're going to talk specifically about African sleeping sickness or African trypanosomiasis, which includes the type of disease, its signs and symptoms, and its transmission. We're also going to be looking at the spread of the African sleeping sickness over the last decade, which speculates over both the increase in transmission over the years and the reduction of annual causes due to a multitude of factors. This tackles 6 major areas of the syllabus. Now, African sleeping sickness, or African trypanosomiasis, is caused by a protozoan called a trypanosoma. Being a parasite, the protozoan is both a microparasite, which means it can be seen under a microscope, and an endoparasite, meaning it's inside a host, not outside. The common characteristics of trypanosoma itself include being eukaryotic, which means having membrane-bound organelles, being unicellular, undergoing motion with a flagella, making it a flagellate, and it's heteroxenous, or requires more than one host to complete its life cycle. In the continent of Africa, there are 2 strands of trypanosoma, TB gambiense, which affects northern Africa, and TB rhodesiense, which affects southern Africa. There are multiple signs and symptoms for African sleeping sickness. For signs, a patient might have the formation of sores, swelling of the lymph nodes, and the formation of a rash. For symptoms, a patient might be suffering from a fever, severe headaches, irritability, extreme fatigue, aching muscles and joints, progressive confusion, difficulty sleeping, hence the name, and a lack of coordination. Now, transmission. The disease grows in areas known as a reservoir. For trypanosoma, reservoirs are usually cattle and other land-grazing mammals. Then a vector, for which trypanosoma is a tsetse fly, gets infected from sucking the blood from these cattle and is now a carrier. Once a human is bit by this tsetse fly, it now becomes infected, in which their sickness spreads in the body through 2 stages. The hemolymphatic stage, in which they multiply subcutaneously under the skin, such as in tissues, bloods, and in the lymph nodes. And next is the neurological stage. The central nervous system gets attacked, causing psychological symptoms such as progressive confusion and inability to sleep. Recent scientific studies have found that the spread of trypanosoma, especially TB rhodesiense, is increasing at an alarming rate due to the Earth's rising temperatures and the increase of global warming. From the image, we can see that the light blue areas represent the areas that will now start to be affected by trypanosoma, and the areas in red are the ones that won't be affected anymore, with more blue being prevalent than red. Yet interestingly, the amount of cases over the past few decades have been decreasing. From the World Health Organization, or WHO, we can see that the tables of all the southern African nations that have been suffering from African sleeping sickness show a decreasing trend over the years. This is extremely prevalent in a nation like Uganda, especially as they suffer from both strains of trypanosoma. The number of cases has been extremely reduced, from being in the thousands to being in the tens over the past few years. The first and most important reason for this trend is the improvement in diagnosis and treatment used to cure African sleeping sickness. The biggest reason towards why many people don't get treated is because the first stage normally produces only a small amount of symptoms, sometimes even unnoticeable on people. For this reason, it is important that diagnosis occurs as early as possible. In terms of diagnosis, there are 3 major ways of testing if a patient suffers from African sleeping sickness. In terms of other medical improvements, more medicines have been tested and created to treat the disease. As of 2019, there is a medicine to treat both the first stages and the second stages of the illness, along with new and more effective oral treatments in the development stage as we speak today. The second aspect that has caused this major decrease in cases over the last years has to do with prevention. CDC, or the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the US, has introduced multiple various prevention charts around the whole African continent. As this promotes awareness, it also allows for greater diagnosis and hence not much need for treatment. In addition, the World Health Organization, or WHO, have also introduced an initiative to completely eradicate the disease in Africa. Teaming up with Aventis Pharma, now Sanofi, and Bayer Healthcare for the creation of surveillance, they now provide some countries with small amounts of the medicine free of charge. Okay, so we are now up to a multiple choice question. What are 2 major factors that led to the decrease in cases over the last decade? Is it treatment and hospitals, prevention and treatment, prevention and the introduction of nurses, prevention and hospital, or all of the above? Sadly, the answer is B, not E.